the Ringstrasse, you can see it going around, that kind of octagonal form there. Oh, I've got a pointer. I'm sure you can make it out without me pointing. This is the ring. This is the Danube Canal, Donau Canal. And there's the St. Stephen's Cathedral, and there's the Graben, which is the big shopping street, the royal palaces over here, the Parliament building over here, and so on and so on. This is the protected, historically protected First District, and it's very hard to get anything built there that's new. There's big debates going on now that they start building skyscrapers. But anyway, he asked me to make a project. He said, but I don't have any money. I said, oh, great. You know, I'm going to go to Vienna and make a great project. You don't have any money. Well, I got a little bit of money. I said, okay, let's do something. So what I did, I began to obviously wanted to use this as a vehicle to carry on thinking I'd already started. But at the same time, I wanted to do something new. So as like a piece of research I wanted to carry forward. So I back to the drawing board, right? That's my mantra. So I was making drawings, again, about contours, lines, edges, of forms dissolving, of coming back together. And I wanted to think in terms not of materials, but of energy. What if we think of the city not as objects, not only as a landscape, but as fields of energy? If we start seeing the buildings as repositories of energy, where we put our energy in to build them, right? I mean, it takes a huge amount of energy to build a building, to get the materials, to lift them up, to defeat gravity, to place them and to secure them against the wind, the weather, and so on. It's a tremendous investment of energy, and the energy stays in the buildings. The buildings look inert, but they're really not. Those of you who know about physics know there's something called potential. There's even the pest soil, right? The memorial to the plague is still there. Very Viennese. But I was thinking about energy, and I was saying, well, what about all these vectors, all these lines? And I was thinking, well, actually, most releases of energy in the city are at small scale. Yeah, you can get up and walk, 3 blocks, or you can walk across the room, turn on a light, or go to bed, go to the door, and maybe a friend comes in. I mean, most of our energy is spent, our human energy, in small movements. So I began to look at what we could do in Vienna with these small movements. And do they really matter? Do they really have a cumulative effect? And I believe they do. So I began making drawings of potential transformations of these vectorial constructs, looking at buildings as collections of vectors. And so, as these vectors, whoops, I missed one. I want to go back. Yeah, so I very carefully set this up so these things would coincide. It kind of works a little bit. So that's how the city changes. We had to actually do something. And the doing involved vectors, which in this case were aluminum tubes. Different than the ones in Paris. These were larger. And they were to become the vectors and contain energy. And they fitted together, you can see it, with a little sleeve inside, almost like a vacuum cleaner hose goes under a vacuum cleaner. So you could clip these things together, maybe 4 types, to make all kinds of different sizes or configurations. So you can see those little clips on that, but still they were very minimal. Then, how were these going to get out into the city? Because the idea here was that we could infuse new energy into the city. And this energy would enter into that matrix of energy of the city. And we could, we wouldn't have to change buildings or anything, just place these vector rods. But who's going to do that? Whose energy? There's already the intellectual and emotional energy that's gone into thinking of it. You know, they're all invested in there too. My energy's in there. You know, the people who made those in the little factory making tubes, their energy's in there. But they've got to now get into the city. And so there was, we got a team of dancers, actually, who were willing to do this for nothing, really nothing, just to do it. And here they are, they're kind of rehearsing, you know, because there was a choreographer, a man named, he did get paid something, not much, but Oleg Solomenko, a Russian fellow who worked with this group to train them how to handle these things and to move with them in space and so forth, to take them into the city. So here they go. You know, there's something kind of adamant there, which I like. And where were they going? Well, a number of drawings, of course. Design. I made a number of drawings using photos, drawing with white crayon on the photos, of how these kinds of rods might be placed in different ways. Because you're not going to drill holes and things. They're going to have to lean them. You're going to have to lean them against other things, just in a temporary way. These don't become permanent. They're only there maybe for an hour, or until someone tells you to move them, or the police come saying you can't do this. Because the first district is exactly that kind of place. You know, you show up and the police are there within 5 minutes, right? So you're on the move. And so these drawings were just showing how these things could be placed in different sites, sometimes only on the ground, so that the movement on the ground is impacted. This one is at the Judenplatz, the memorial to the murdered Jews of Vienna, by Rachel Whitereed, the sculptor. It's this block. It's actually books. It's a casting of books from the inside. And so we thought we would take our energy and, you know, add it to that, contribute it to that. And of course that's very tricky. I mean, you know, Vienna, you know, there's a whole thing about Jews and Viennese, and, you know, it's still an uneasy relationship. And we weren't sure how this would be interpreted, because it's either seen as an act of desecration of this memorial, or as a, you know, an homage, like bringing, you know, your gifts to the memorial for an hour. You know, that's the whole thing. Just one little anecdote is that, well, not a little anecdote, I'll make it a little anecdote. Simon Wiesenthal, the famous Nazi hunter who lived in Vienna for many years, died, I don't know, a few months, well, it was October, beginning of October, end of September. I think it was right at the turn of the month. And it was exactly that day that we had scheduled this intervention at the Judenplatz. So it was kind of a charged moment. But it was done, and it was fine. And part of the problem was to get the dancers to go there, our performers. They were scared, but it all worked out. This is already now, the warm weather's gone, and this went on for a number of months. And every time they would go out and place them in different sites, bring them back to the museum, because there was the repository